Hello, everybody, and boy, am I happy. And I'm also Jeremy. Welcome to Rise of the Podcast.
I'm Kara.
I'm Brownie, and that was the most crazy intro that's ever happened.
Well, you know why?
Sure?
You know why?
It's because we're talking about...
A New Hope.
Awesomeness of New Hope.
It's an amazing movie. Woo!
Yay, we get to say the good
stole my thunder.
things. We get to say the good things, guys. The good things.
Oh, it's such an amazing movie.
It's going to be an easy podcast.
Easy episode of our show.
Yes.
Easy episode. I'm going to kick it off. The characters in A New Hope are absolutely
they're so good.
heartwarming, likable, relatable, awesome characters.
Fully fleshed out. They actually feel like real people.
Yeah.
Such life brought to them. Oh, man.
So I immediately want to talk about Luke in this regard because characters always have to have some type of conflict that they're dealing with, right? And before Luke is becoming the savior of the galaxy, he still has a conflict he's dealing with. He has this conflict with his uncle.
I want him cleaned up for dinner.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
You can waste time with your friends when your chores are done. Now, come on, get to it.
All right, come on.
Who wants to go to Toshi Station, wants some power converters. Seems like a nothing problem, but it's a big problem to him, right?
is.
And that's what matters, is there's a character that has something that they're already dealing with.
Yep.
It's not something where he's just sitting there empty, waiting to have the weight of the universe put upon him.
Right.
No specific time you brought this up or planned on, but you talked about when they're about to blow the Death Star up, and they talk about they used to do it in Beggar's Canyon. And he's got to go to, where does he pick up the power?
Tashi Station.
There's
Right.
just, in that scene, there's all the, Star Wars is painted as a real world, which Luke lives
Right.
in, with his real problems.
Yep.
Super relatable character, absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Love Luke.
Awesome casting.
You got one of my favorites. We're introduced in a little bit into Alec Guinness. What
Yep.
an amazing character Alec Guinness is. Obi-Wan.
Hello there.
Like we were talking about how real his emotions were. Like,
Of course I know.
acting.
He's me.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that whole
Yeah, no,
hand
like
fist bump.
his character's the one that I watched the most closely, and like he acted the heck out of this.
Obi-Wan. Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
I think my uncle knows him. He said he was dead.
Oh, he's not dead. Not yet.
You know him.
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
All the little things, to the point where like they even play with the context of the other films and everything. Like they still carry the weight appropriately. He's not over or underreacting to the thing. He plays it so perfectly,
Right.
and his character is just exactly the right character. Like. People talk about this is like a hero's journey, like a whole Joseph Campbell thing.
Yes.
And it's like this is like the classic mentor character.
Yes, and that specifically they brought on no-name actors at the time,
Right.
and he was the one named actor that was famous. He did that with intention for that reason. Not only was he wise to Luke in the film, he was wise to all the other actors on set. And was a good role model. I heard he didn't like the part, but that he was professional on set,
Right.
and he really was an awesome person to work with. They all loved him. Because they went through all these obstacles and stuff, but I want to talk about Darth Vader.
Okay,
I want
alright,
to
I
talk
was
about
gonna
the pacing, and just even though tear that ship apart until you find those plans. Just everything about Darth Vader is such a cool.
Yeah, like you can tell that like even the people that work with him aren't necessarily like friendly. Like he is an antagonist to everybody.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, he's going and force choking Imperial
Officers,
officers because
yes.
they don't agree with him.
So-
I mean, I think the only one he might be a little bit scared of is Grand Moff Tarkin. Because
Yeah,
Tarkin's
it's-
like, that's enough. You know,
Yeah.
like, and Vader's like, oh, okay, fine.
Such a good character, but I mean, it's like he walks in with such authority. No one messes with him.
Right.
He even like kind of like kicks one of the dead bodies or whatever, one of the dead rebel bodies to make sure they're dead. Because they're walking through the thing, and the way he just like throws Captain Antilles down, and instantly right off the bat, powerful, commanding character and iconic
Yes.
throughout all of pop culture.
Yes.
People hasn't even seen Star Wars know who Darth Vader is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, tremendous character.
And he's like the bad guy of bad guys. Like
Yeah.
you guys said, everybody's afraid of him. You know, he's. But
It's like because there are different types of bad guys. Like there's bad guys that have like evil like plans and stuff like Palpatine, and then there's bad guys that can just wreck up a place.
yes.
And I feel like in this one, it sort of seems like he sort of had a hand in the Death Star, but you end up finding out that he doesn't necessarily. But it seems like it's kind of like his thing and Palpatine's thing. So he seems like not only a character that is like malicious and a capable fighter and can just like ruin your day in like a horror villain, but also is like cunning and smart and uses the
Right.
Force, which obviously
it's not just
is
slash him up. It's like
Yeah.
slash him up in a smart way.
So yeah, it's
Stormtroopers are anonymous, but you don't use your imagination because they feel like one of many. Vader, you have this imagination of what does he look like? Who is he? What's his? His imagination. You can run wild with his character. It's
can.
just
yeah.
he's amazing.
And like there's like horror, like the horror stories about him or whatever. Like you hear, it's like, oh yeah, he turned and killed your father, and this, and like
Right.
and you see him be menacing. You hear people talk about him being menacing. He's never just not some sort of threat to somebody.
Exactly.
He's
Oh.
threatening Leia the whole time.
I know.
Oh.
So speaking of Leia, again, we could bring it up later, but like just the casting choices, the actors who they used to play it. But Leia, what a great female co-lead.
Yeah, she does not take a back seat to the other characters. She
Absolutely
hijacks her own
not.
rescue.
She is sassy.
We've entered the Alderaan system.
Governor Tarkin, I should have expected to find you holding Vader's leash. I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board. This is some rescue. You came in here, didn't you have a plan for getting out?
Eat the brain, sweetheart! What the hell are you doing?
Somebody has to save our skins.
Yes.
Like, I mean,
You came in that thing? You're braver than I thought.
Right? She doesn't take crap from anybody.
The scene in the
like-
detention center, she's like, what are you doing? Saving our butts. And
Yeah.
she blasts the door open.
Yeah, she is as integral as any other character, and it's like you don't see that even today very much.
No.
Right.
And it's like having such a strong female lead. Oh, such a good character.
It is very much a good character.
So then, as the story progresses, we get introduced to Han and Chewbacca.
Han Solo. I'm captain of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie here tells me you're looking for passage to the Alderaan system.
Yes, indeed. If it's a fast ship.
Fast ship. You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Should I have?
So you talk about Han and Chewie. I'm gonna go to my droids.
The other best buds.
C-3PO and a little R2-D2.
What message? The one you've just been playing. The one you're carrying inside your rusty innards.
They carry the first part of the film. They are the main characters as far
Right.
as you can tell for the first 25 minutes of that movie.
If you
Oh,
think
totally.
about it, I mean, they are given the role and they run with it. They're amazing. Yeah, you only see them on Tatooine for the first part of the movie. It's absolutely amazing. Even in the intro with Vader,
I was
Yep,
gonna say,
yeah,
there's
you-
a reason Leia gave the Death Star plans to R2
Ah.
and not C-3PO.
They're like, oh, Mr. Vader, I've got your plans.
That's exactly it.
please don't melt me
Please
down
don't kill me.
for scrap.
Please don't deactivate me. That's what it would be.
But
Yeah.
again, you've got these droids. They span all of the movies. Super iconic. You can buy a $25,000 R2-D2 at Galaxy's Edge. People love these
Like their interactions with each other, like they're the classic sort of like straight man and foil like comedy duo.
Yeah.
And like R2's always just like he has the mission that he's going on, and C-3PO is just being sort of like drug along for the ride, and he doesn't want to be there. And he's like, and then like, and of course at the end, he's like, when R2 is getting loaded out, he's like, oh, if there's any of my pods that can be used to.
Yes.
And it's like
I might
such a.
gladly donate them.
Yeah, it like just has like this genuine moment. It's so good. Oh, they're just great characters.
I love the
love
scene when
those two.
R2 is playing the message for Luke for the first time, and he's like, "Play it back, you fucking bolts!" Or whatever. He's like,
Is that how human cyborg relations work? C-3PO karate chopping a robot
just
to
like,
do his will.
So it's like we got all these great characters, but we could get stuck on the characters for a long time. But the original Star Wars tells an amazing
Yeah,
story.
and yeah.
And it does it in such an amazing way. You and I talked many times about the pacing of the story. It's just paced well.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't. You're not sitting there being like, okay, I get it. What's the next thing? It's
Space
just
taxes.
it's dragging you along, and you're like, oh no, there's a thing, and then
Well, Jeremy
and
paused
so-
at one point. I was like, we're an hour 15 in. Oh my gosh! Like I
felt
feel
like
like I've
10
been watching.
minutes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like it's paced very well.
Yeah, there's not just like random scenes that don't. Or I guess there's technically a couple of random scenes that don't mean anything, but like,
Because they were edited.
but like everything is there for a reason. It's either developing a character, developing the story, or paying off something that was already set up.
Yeah.
And it's just like the mastercraft of assembling a story in that way is just so good.
Love the opening shot of the Star Destroyer passing over the camera. And
Yeah.
it's just such a good shot. They pulled it off. It's totally plausible for what they
Yeah.
did with that time, the models and the details they put into all the scenes. But for as far as the story is telling a story, like you brought up with like Luke has his own problems that explode into this. He stumbles into this big, massive conflict between the rebellion and the Empire.
And Han has his money issues with Jabba.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like
People have real-world issues.
Yeah, Obi-Wan is doing what he's been doing for the last 20 years, and that's making sure that like Luke eventually has a chance to become Luke Skywalker.
Well, I love how like immediately he brings Luke to his hut and immediately gives him the lightsaber. Like,
What is it? Your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster. An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
lightsaber. Like, here you go.
See, and that's that pacing. Like they get
Yeah.
in there and it's like, oh, here you go, here's a lightsaber, and just the way he talks.
Yeah,
about it.
and like
elegant
so
from
as
the
an
front.
audience, you get exposed to like the most cool thing that's ever been made for the first time ever, a lightsaber.
Right.
And while you're like, whoa, that's awesome, he's setting up the whole everything that happens in the first or in episodes 1, 2, and 3. He just sort of was like, here's what happened. Your father was an OG,
Jedi, yeah.
and then from a certain point of view,
Right.
Darth Vader, whatever, all that stuff. You get all this history condensed into this little thing that basically says the Force is awesome, you've got it, let's go out into the universe and be cool space wizards.
Right.
Yeah, and let's blow up a massive starship that blows up a planet. That's no moon.
That's too
Yeah.
big to be a spaceship or a
Space station.
spaceport.
Yeah.
Yeah, space station.
But the like the costumes complement the characters, the props complement the characters in the
Yeah.
story.
There's George Lucas talked about what, like in his idea about a lived-in universe. Like up until that point, most science fiction was like shiny and new and like not utopian, but more utopian than not. And he's like, I want to make a universe that feels like it's been lived in and it's just like been around forever.
Right.
And it's like, so stuff's beat up and dirty and like doesn't work all the time. And
That's what brings me back to Star Wars.
Right.
Always is that
Attention to detail.
it's Lord of the Rings does it well as good as well, or they do it well. Is they just have a plausible environment that you can get lost in, and that's what Star Wars
Right.
is.
yeah,
It's
the world building is taken so seriously at every level, from character to story to like internal history
Right.
to props and costuming.
You talked about the Jawas, Kara, the sand crawler.
I mean,
Like,
they do
as
the
it
close-up
rolls up,
shots, and it's like it's just caked with dirt, and it's
Rusty.
It's rusty.
You can
and-
tell they've been using it for 1,000 years.
Right. It's like passed generation to generation of Jawas,
And like Jawas as a character are amazing. Like these little scavengers, that go around, and steal droids from
Right.
people, and like they try to rip them off by the red one blowing up.
Yeah.
Just all this fun stuff that is amazing. And I specifically, there's some certain dialogue in moments where even Obi-Wan's telling Luke, like, if you were with them, if you were with your parents, you would be dead.
Your aunt and uncle.
The droids would be in aunt and uncle.
Right.
The droids would be in the hands of the Empire. Like every specific line is driving the story forward.
Right.
And they're able to give you an amazing movie in a short amount of time.
Yep. Yeah, the movie, like, by the time the end credits roll, is just over 2 hours. And then, like, the credits are another whatever. But
Right.
So yeah, and like you can't go to a movie today without being 2.5 or 3 hours. Like a movie of this type
Right.
seems like they just have to have so much in there, and it's like it's fast, but it's like it's not confusing at all. Like you got to think like they're like talking about alien worlds, and there's all these things that are completely different than the world that we live in. But we just like the characters accept it. It's normal to them. We are already aligned with the characters, so we're like, yep, okay, let's roll with it.
Yep.
And it's great.
The EU isn't for everybody, but it is a defining moment. The Death Star blowing up is the Star Wars timeline. There's BBY. It's like
before the Battle of Yavin,
and then after.
After the Battle of
so
Yavin.
even you get to see all of that in the very first canonical release, or movie theater release order of the movies. You get to see all of that happen, unfold. Like the biggest events in Star Wars happen in A New Hope.
Yep.
Right.
So, amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Where are we moving on to now?
We're gonna go to
Settings?
No, let's go to ships. Right? We're gonna talk about ships.
Okay.
So we
cool.
use this. Oh, I'm sorry, settings. Kara was right. Settings. So first they have this amazing storytelling, and it's all supported by these amazing locations. And then they actually went and did, on scene.
Yeah, they went to actual environments that were supposed to be representative of these entire planets. So, like, on Earth, we have such a wide variety of different locations we can go to, and it's varied. But then you have to think at a universal scale, there probably are Tatooine planets, just straight desert, or just a planet-sized jungle, like on Dagobah Swamp.
Yes.
But so like the first you get introduced to like these super crazy spaceships having this shootout. And then you end up on like probably the most desolate rock you could ever have landed on.
Yes.
And
they farm moisture.
Yeah, and it's like it's so brilliant. It's like how would people survive there? It's like all the thoughts. So just like the amount of detail and thinking of like how to structure it so everything has this plausibility. It's like, and then like Tatooine does so much heavy lifting. The portion of the film where they're on Tatooine does so much heavy lifting because like you get to see that like people can, or any alien species are existing on all these different types of planets. It's super harsh environments and everything, but then you get to see the Mos Eisley spaceport.
Amazing.
Mos Eisley Spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
It's amazing. You get this picture of Luke and the moisture farms and the barrenness, and then you've got where everyone lets their hair down across species.
Yep.
And just this grungy spaceport.
Except for droids.
Hey, we don't serve their kind here.
What?
Your droids. They'll have to wait outside. We don't want them here.
Why don't you wait out by the speeder? We don't want any trouble.
I heartily agree with you, sir.
Yeah.
We don't serve that type here.
In most, in the cantina.
Yeah.
You get it just all paints a picture.
Well, yeah,
Also
you get like a
tells
cross
story.
section of how vast the universe is from the inside of a bar because you see 20 different aliens.
Absolutely.
Right.
Inside of this one space, and then like none of them are like, holy smokes, look at all these aliens. They're all just like, whatever. Obviously, there's this many aliens.
Right.
Well, you
They're
see,
probably all a bunch of bounty hunters. They're
what I like too. So then you've got they're trying to get off Tatooine. That's important. They're trying to get off. So they hire Chewie and Han to get him off the planet. He can outrun Imperial Star Destroyers. So you don't know what that is until he goes up, and it's like, oh, these guys are hotter than I thought. And it's like,
Right.
then they're
And he has to run two of them.
Yeah, he's got to outrun two of them. They get away. And then they come out of space where there's supposed to be a planet. We get like an outside view of Alderaan, and then it's gone, and you see the Death Star.
Yeah.
Like,
and which is a large portion of the movie takes place on the Death Star. That's something that I always forget. It's like you have a lot of Tatooine, you get a little bit of Rebel base at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
It's mostly the Death Star.
Yeah.
Well, you get to see that by the slice of the movie would be mostly Death Star and like
Just
grays
gray.
and dark.
Yeah.
Because that's what the Death Star is.
And even on the Death Star, there's like different environments. So it's like you have like the hangar bays and everything when you first come in, like the control room where they figure out where Leia
the power
is.
for the tractor beam. You've got the trash compactor.
Yeah, so like there's this huge vertical spaces in that area, and then the trash compactor and the jail cell area. Everything looks different because they're from different purposes. There's not like a homogeny to the way everything is on there. So like this is, I think that goes a long way towards making the Death Star feel like it's massive.
The vertical spaces make it feel huge to me, and then the ships or the cavities in the middle of hangars that go down into nowhere. You see, shots when Vader and Vader and Obi-Wan are fighting. It's just multiple dimensions that make the Death Star feel real and big and intimidating.
Yeah.
Because
there's a maze-like quality to it, and then there's like there's not like, I don't want to say there's tons of like hard edges and stuff, but there's like a precision that it feels like there is on there too. So like there's nothing rough or organic about it. It's very much a mechanical, like devised thing.
Right.
And
And even then you get to the Rebel base, but then there's even a moon. Like, it's not a planet now.
It's on the moon of a planet.
And you get to see Yavin, and you get to see all this stuff. So the settings and the locations
Star Wars does like the moons.
Well,
specifically, not.
So we've got habitable Earth, but then they'd say the next habitable thing for us would be a moon of Saturn. Like, if we're going to go somewhere, there's Mars. But there's a possibly habitable.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think, like, sort of to Kara's point, like, up to that point, it's like, it's always planets that people were going to in science fiction. So, like, well, there's moons, there's asteroids, there's whatever. Like, there's other objects that also could support life. Like, so Hoth is still a planet.
Right.
Dagobah's a planet, but Bespin's a planet too, I guess. But, like, there's definitely like the forest moon of Endor and all this stuff, and
like the big stuff happens on the moons.
So
a lot of Death Stars are blown up because they get too close to moons. Apparently,
watch out for those moons.
And those devices for blowing up Death Stars are the ships. So you're introduced to Star Wars ships, and you talked about feeling a planet that's lived in. I always love the Star Wars ships plausibility is maybe thrown out the window. Like, a spaceship doesn't need X-wings, like dual wings, and
it doesn't need any wings.
It doesn't need any, or like a ball. And then the Millennium Falcon, the way that thing's laid out, it's such an iconic ship.
Well, yeah, so like, and you think about it too, because like in space, it doesn't matter what the shape is, so you can have a cool, interesting shape like that.
Right.
It doesn't need to be able to fly in an atmosphere necessarily. It does, it can, but like it shows that it doesn't really matter, and like the thought for that. I think like the disparity between the way that the Rebel ships look and the way the TIE fighters, again, it's like all clean lines. It's all like, and you can tell it's a funded military unit. Whereas like the X-wings are like, we just found these and we just threw some gas in them and they still run.
Like Y-wings were used for old farming. You don't know that in the story, but
like you can tell that it's a patched together military, and just from like the quality and condition of the models for the ships.
Amazing.
And it's like, and again, like all iconic designs. You can look at the silhouette of literally any of the ships we have listed here and know exactly what it is.
Even if you haven't seen the movies.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, that's something from Star Wars.
Right, it's like the same as Darth Vader. Everybody knows Darth Vader. If you saw the silhouette of an X-wing, that's from Star Wars, or the same with the TIE Fighter, or the Falcon.
Okay, so we didn't get to see the movie when it came out in 1977, but I can't shake the fact that when I watch it, I always subconsciously think, the original VFX, they were able to pull this stuff off in 1976 and 1977,
Yeah. And you can tell the effects that they really put a lot of time and effort into, because they still hold up today.
They still hold up.
Just like everything, and like the vast majority of the effects were either created by or improved by Industrial Light and Magic, which was created by George Lucas to make Star Wars. So they're just like, let's invent some stuff and hope that it works, basically.
In Star Wars, no one's tried to make like maybe with Kylo Ren's, but even like lightsabers still look like the original lightsabers in 77. They didn't do much to improve. They've added directions, dual or Kylo Ren.
Yeah, and and it's faster to do the compositing and stuff. You're not like hand drawing them in or anything anymore.
But they included him, and they like brought in this thing that's been emulated across video games. Like, you've got Beat Saber now is insanely powerful, and everything came from like Star Wars' lightsabers. Like all of these
Laser sword.
Yeah. Terraria has like just all these games and all these things that are inspired by the science fiction that came from Star Wars.
Well, and then like, so sort of speaking to the VFX too, it's like all of like the blaster hits and stuff were practical.
Yeah.
So it's like you have this tangible real world impact with like the sparks and the burns and stuff like that are happening actually on set. It's like, 'cause like now now, you can just add all that in post.
Right.
So there's nothing really to react to. But if you see like squibs going off and little explosions where things are getting blown off of the ships and stuff like that, or even the ships themselves exploding.
Yes.
All those have like a real tangible weight to them. There's not as much trying to figure out the physics after the fact because you're just literally blowing something up.
Right.
Just
So
works
yeah, the
so
VFX
well.
were so freaking good.
Yeah, like the smoke in the opening scene, you know, like
Oh.
cutting through.
Yep.
So good.
Yep.
But we have my favorite things to talk about are just the iconic moments that we take away with the movie when we're done. These are the things you think
Yeah.
about after the movie's over.
Yeah, these could easily fit into a bunch of other categories, but I think putting all these next to each other is the best way to do this.
I love the Force. I love
Yep.
the Force. It's always one of those things when you play make-believe as a kid, you make believe you have the Force. It's like
Yep.
adults still do it. You walk into an automatic door and you
Yeah.
Oh, I do it every time.
Kara
Ask
did it to get the
Jeremy.
camera to work.
Yeah.
And
Like, it
boom,
will
it
work,
works.
you know? It's just an
I'm a powerful
influence.
force user. Just call me Jedi Knight
You
Kara.
know, elevator
Yeah.
doors, you name it.
And it sets it up as like this mystical special ability, where it's like, and it's very nebulously defined, and you like, there's no like hard and fast rules about it. It's just something that like that Obi-Wan claims exists. Luke is starting to learn about it. Han is just like, that's total BS.
I've flown
Right.
from one
You know,
side to the other.
So it's not something where it's like held in this high reverence by everybody. It's
Right.
again, it feels like a real thing.
Right. It's not like in episodes 1, 2, and 3 where everybody knew about the Force. Most everybody believed in the Force. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of gone by the wayside at this point. So yeah.
Even Grand Moff Tarkin. Vader, you're the last of your kind, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Even references Vader maybe.
Yeah, it's ancient religion.
Ancient religion and Hokie, whatever.
Yeah.
Hokie's Han.
Han, yeah.
So you've got that. You walk away with the mention of the Force. Some other super iconic moments. You lay eyes on Han and Chewie for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like you so quickly understand everything that the character's about from the place that he's in, the way he acts in that
Right.
place.
Like,
is
he's just lounging back, just kind of like chill, just, you know.
I love it with the arm cut off.
Yep.
Chewie just kind of looks to the side like, shouldn't have messed with the old man.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Yeah, like you can tell that they've been through some stuff, and that, like, it's such a great like, these are scenes that people like can like recreate from memory or parody all the
Right.
time.
I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
So it's like the Vader Kenobi fight. There's that great like expansion video that people have done on YouTube. It just looks phenomenal.
Tremendous.
Oh, like the way that like so, and it reminded me of like how actually good that fight was just on its own. It's
Yeah.
a good fight for
It is.
for like being the first time they've ever tried doing that.
You see a lightsaber. Now you see them hitting each other.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like, do they go through each other? Do they stop? And just the fact, like, they stop like it's a tangible object
Right.
that can destroy you. And
Ben?
It's so good.
you've
And
got
then-
like Luke watching it. All the stormtroopers quit what they're doing and run
yeah,
away.
because
Like, what is
they're just as
this?
blown away by it as we are. They're
Yeah.
like, we've got to see what this is.
So cool.
Oh, it's so freaking awesome. Then like the trash compactor scene, we mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's an iconic scene that like, so I can think of off the top of my head. So in the film Ernest Scared Stupid, they do a parody of this in a garbage truck where the garbage truck is like slowly trying to crush him. And he's like trying to brace with like a shovel, and he finds like a whatever. It's just like, it's such a good thing. They do a parody of it in the Family Guy episode where they're doing like lampooning all of the Star Wars
Right.
things in their each films or whatever. It's just that's a scene that people remember, and it's just so iconic in the thing.
Yeah.
Well,
One
I
of
mean,
my favorite.
Spaceballs parodied the whole movie.
Yes.
You know.
It did. One of my favorite things is Obi-Wan's Jedi mind trick.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along.
He is the only Jedi to not fail at a mind trick.
Yep. And
So it's so funny. These aren't the droids you're looking for. You may go on your way, or move along.
Move along. Yeah, it's so, and people still do that all the time too. And it's like there's these moments that just resonate with people. And then of course like the trench run at the end.
What? Yahoo! Look out! You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.
Like, it's such an iconic thing. It's like, that's where Luke finally uses the Force for the first time. Jeremy actually mentioned, like, the stakes are raised in that scene because the first person who tried to actually shoot the proton torpedoes into the exhaust port missed.
I can't hold them.
It's away!
Negative. It didn't go in.
Right. See, I love that because, and it really dawned on me watching it this time, is if he would have Luke would have just went in and succeeded, there's no failure, there's no stakes, there's no stakes.
Yeah, there's no stress, there's no
But it's like,
tension.
they've shot, they've missed.
Yeah, more and more people are dying around him. It's like it's getting more and more and more dying.
Biggs dies, he gets shot, and Luke's the only one left.
Yeah, and then Han comes in, bails him out at the end.
Yep.
Character arc complete.
I just love watching Vader's ship just humbling. It's so funny.
Like Han's holding his earpiece flying, you get the solar flare of the sun in the background. But people were surprised when they found out Vader was Luke's dad. When I saw A New Hope, I had no idea what was going to happen. And that scene with Han kicking Vader out, or coming in and saving the day, just blew my mind as a kid. I was like, what? He came back! I can't believe it. Hans, he
almost
is
get a little
softie,
teary, like, oh my gosh.
He can do it. And he's like, what do you think I'm going to let you spend all the reward money?
Right?
And it's just, it's awesome. And then, like, my favorite scene, too, is the very, very end. You've got the epic score wrapping up the medals, the awards. What a great closure to a great movie.
Yeah, there was like just a great sense of relief at the end. And speaking of ends, that's the end of this video. We hope that you like the things that we brought up that we think make Star Wars a great movie. Obviously, there's so many more things that we weren't able to talk about. So comment below the things that you love about Star Wars, or if you want to refute some of the points that we made, you just want to add on.
But are you really going to?
Yeah. In general, just have a conversation about how great this movie really is. Like this video, if you liked it, it shows that you're supporting what we're doing on the channel here. We're going to be making some more of these, and hopefully maybe branching out into some other movies too. But for right now, it's all about Star Wars. So throw a like on there if you enjoyed what we did here. Consider subscribing if you want to see other stuff that we're doing come back. Check out the other videos that we're making. We're right in the middle of making this series right now, so we're going to be making more. You're going to want to come back and see it. Or especially ring the notification bell if you want to be notified of when we upload these videos. That way it shows that you're all in with what we're doing and you're not going to miss anything that we make. And it does mean a lot to us. And of course,
may the Force be with you.